one's wasting you. It's precious. Can't get it back. There's only so much of it, and eventually it will run out.
Real friends bring out the best. If somebody in your life doesn't bring out the best in you,
You're literally wasting your time, and you don't even know the impact of that time wasting.
the pursuit of happiness has its price.
Retirement doesn't mean you're dead.
The older you get, the more it's like, what have I done with my time?
It's a lonely place at the top.
The time is so valuable.
If you don't use it, you lose it. We are back with another episode of Reality Squared. Excited to be here. We're back. We're back. Sharon on the keys. Yes, getting us out of that day funk and into the podcast zone. Yes, it was a good day, productive day. Super excited to be back as usual. And we were just talking before the podcast, and I think this time we're going to focus on time management. You know, it started off the conversation around friends and, you know, who you should be spending your time with, who you shouldn't be spending your time with. What is the definition of a friend? What is a friend to you? What's an ideal friend look like? What does friendship in general look like? And then it kind of moved into, well, you know, it kind of is a function of your time management. How do you prioritize your time? How do you go about figuring out how to spend your time in terms of how it benefits you? I don't know.
You should say friendship. I don't know, you're trying to mix like.
Yeah, well, because friendship is a function of time management, because who you spend your time with is a function of how you spend your time.
Yes.
And how you prioritize your time, and who you're spending that time with is so important.
Because your time is so valuable.
Yeah, it's precious.
You never get it back.
Can't get it back. There's only so much of it, and eventually it will run out.
So friendship, what are you doing with that time in regards to who you're spending it?
Yeah, and I mean, we were just saying, you know, we wish we knew that when we were younger, how important it was to surround yourself with the right kinds of friends and what real friendship looks like. And if you're always calling them and they're never calling you, and you're always pining for their attention and they're never kind of reciprocating and showing that they see the value in you that you see in them, it's a very one-sided situation, and you're not really going to glean the value out of that relationship that you may out of one that is more balanced, and where you both perceive the friendship value to be commensurate and you act upon that in a similar way. At least I've seen a pattern where men can go a very long time without seeing a close friend, and then when they reconnect, it'll just pretty much start up where it left off.
I'm sure women have that too, for sure.
Many women have that too, but I think that a lot of women will actually invest more time in their closer friendships and to have more frequent interactions with those friends. And
maybe for connection, it validates something else that for men. For men, it's productivity. Mm-hmm. At some point, you want to have friendships that go somewhere, that produce something. I think with women, it's more emotional.
Oh, yeah.
A sense of belonging and connection.
Interesting. As opposed to value. Yeah.
Productivity.
Right. I mean, I remember a few years ago, I met a common friend of ours for the first time, and, you know, after once or twice, and we were, you know, it seemed like it was a good thing, he leans over and says to me, he's like, you know, I'm not looking for new friends. If we're not making money together or in some way enhancing each other's lives, I've got friends, you know? So that really resonated with me as a man, becoming friends with another man. And that's their perspective, is like, I'm not here to waste my time with people that are going to have no positive impact on my life. And then if you do, I then have perceived value in your friendship, and I'm going to probably, hopefully try to provide similar value to you, right? Similar value exchange. This applies to any kind of relationship, the value exchange, right? Men and women who get married ultimately, hopefully perceive each other as providing similar levels of value for the other. Not in the same way, right? A man is the provider, a woman is a nurturer, and you know, as long as you're doing the providing in a certain way, the woman's doing a nurturing in a certain way. That is hopefully, you know, kind of evens out that scale and makes it so that someone doesn't think that they are pulling all the weight and that they're carrying someone else. Because that's the worst. right? Feeling that you're carrying someone else and you're the one who's providing all the value and there's no value being provided, or there's a lot less value being provided back. I think it's a pretty crappy feeling, right?
Well, absolutely. You don't want to be a burden on anyone. You know, your friends are not your therapists. And I think maybe that's where there's a distinction in the genders. Maybe women are more comfortable in that therapeutic kind of connection where they're kind of supporting one another and listening to one another about their issues or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know if men are so much like that. Maybe a little bit, but at the end, it's more like strength building, team building, building something.
Yeah.
Maybe even building understanding, right? You can have a cerebral connection with someone. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of building on insight, you know?
Yeah. Well, but at the same time, I think that we may build those relationships with certain people and we end up not being able to give up that friendship, even if it gets toxic. And even if you realize one day that the value isn't there because you made that cerebral connection and you have that thing that you created and you put so much weight in that, wow, this person knows me. They understand me. They get me. You're not going to be so willing to give that friendship up if and when it gets toxic, or if and when you realize that it's not an ideal use of your time. But then on the contrary, on the other side, if it's good, it can be great. It can be beautiful. It can be wonderful. It can be timeless, literally, and so valuable. And so in like a intimate relationship, being able to put your heart out there and risk it getting hurt kind of applies to friendship too. You're going to put your heart out there, your friendship heart out there, and there's a chance that it may get trampled, but there's a chance that it may not, right? It's very similar.
Everything in life has a reason or a season or a lifetime, you know?
Yeah.
And it's part of like just accepting that, knowing that. You don't know who's going to be in your life for a lifetime. You just don't know. Or how long that season is going to last. You just don't know, but you have to enjoy the ride. A, and be productive in, I think, any connection. For me, production is a big thing. At some point, you recognize how valuable time is, and it's running out. The older you get, the more it's like, what have I done with my time? Mm-hmm. You know, I've just been running after pleasure after pleasure after pleasure, which is also important, but it's got to be balanced with productivity.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that vacations are important. Resting time is important. Being with yourself sometimes is important. Disconnecting is important as long as it's a function of your productivity, meaning that I'm going to be able to be productive, more productive, because of the time I'm investing in myself.
Yeah, so that comes down to your time management.
Whereas I think people almost get addicted to that vacation time, to that freedom, and they don't want to go back. And they don't want to have to think about prioritizing the time that they're spending doing nothing, right? I want to do nothing because I want to do nothing. And it feels good to have to not have any responsibilities or accountabilities and no pressures and no anxieties. And I want to just be in this place, as opposed to, it's good to find that spot. It's good to find that place. It's good to find your peace so that you can produce.
Yeah, exactly. You have to have a state of rest.
Right? I'm not doing this so that I can rest more. It's a means to an end. It is not an end in and of itself.
It's all good. All these things that we enjoy and we want to do, and some of the things that we don't want to do or don't feel comfortable, it's all good, and really is about what you're saying, time management. You've got to schedule everything. It's extremely important to schedule some time where you're doing nothing.
Yeah. I went to a friend's house a few months ago for a meal. Old friends, and they're a couple. It was at the parents of one of the wife. Her dad is retired. Great guy, fantastic career, wildly successful. He's telling me how much he's enjoying retirement. And so I asked him, I said, are you really enjoying it? I was like, well, how is that transition going from being super busy and hyper productive to not? Because I asked him, I was like, what are you doing in your retirement? He's like, nothing. I'm traveling a little bit, seeing the world a little bit, but pretty much. I was like, do you golf? He's like, no. He's like, I pretty much do nothing. And he had gained a fair amount of weight. and he's getting older. And I said to him, I said, you know, you may want to pick up a hobby. You may want to figure out something new to do, maybe even something in business, because you're experienced and you're good at that. And, you know, it makes you fulfilled. I was like, you could be retired. Retirement doesn't mean you're dead. It doesn't mean you're done. It means that you get a new lease on life to hopefully do what you want because you've spent your life investing in yourself, your family, your future, their future, and now you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor in your older age as a retired person. But you have to enjoy it and do things that are going to bring joy or fulfillment to your life so that you continue to stay healthy into your old age. Otherwise, you know, as humans, I find if you don't use it, you lose it. Right? Our bodies are very adaptable. Our brains are very adaptable, and we will rise to the occasion. We will put on the muscle. We will lose the weight. We will improve our whatever it is when it needs to be improved intrinsically, without us even trying, well, without us cognizantly doing it, because we are putting in effort in certain ways, and our body says, oh, I need to support your efforts in this way. We need to augment your physicality in order to fulfill what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to lift X amount of weight on a regular basis. You need more muscle to do that comfortably. We're going to build you more muscle so that you can do that. If you stop, if you slow down, your body's like, oh, you don't need as much muscle. We're going to scale back on the muscle. We're going to, you know, thin you out, take you down a few notches, maybe throw on a few pounds of fat because you're not burning, you're not living that calorie deficit that you used to live. You're not as active as you used to be, right? Going into retirement doesn't mean be less active. It means you have to find something else to focus on in your life that's going to continue to challenge your body, challenge your mind so that you don't age so quickly. Personal purpose. Meaning family is purpose, friends are purpose, community is purpose.
And purpose is intertwined with intention, you know, and motivation.
But and must be balanced with personal purpose. Exactly, because otherwise there is no intention. Your intention is for them, not for me. If I don't see the value for me, then my motivation eventually is going to run out, right? Because I'm not seeing the personal fulfillment that I need. And again, people get tons of personal fulfillment from their children, from their families, from their friends, from their communities, lots. But ultimately, if you can't find it in yourself as well, you become dependent. I think that if you have that purpose, and that purpose is something that is maintainable because you are getting perceived value from whatever it is that you're doing and then getting fulfillment from, you will continue to be healthy and happy and productive in new ways throughout your life. Whether it's you're working, whether you're retired, you need to keep those things going, you know? It's almost like diet. You know, your diet will change throughout your life because of your physical needs. And, you know, when you're younger, for example, let's talk about diet for a second, actually. We're going to divert for a second and talk about diet. I get asked a lot about nutrition and diet. A lot of people come over to me in all walks of life and ask me about, right? How do you stay fit, healthy, all that good stuff. And I tell them my theory about it. My theory is it goes back to the beginning of humanity, where we were not mass producing food. In order to eat, you had to kill it, pick it, grow it, steal it, right? And so when you're younger, you require more energy, but you have more energy to hunt. And you may eat meat numerous times a week.
What sustains you longer, meat?
Well, it does, but when you're younger, you burn. Your metabolism is faster, and you burn through food and sustenance faster, but you can also use your energy to get more. As you age, and again, this is just, you know, fundamentals. As you age, your need for intake, your need for sustenance goes down. You also don't necessarily burn as quickly. Your metabolism may go down as well, and you may not exert as much energy. And so you don't need to eat as much as you age. But unfortunately, because of mass production of food and the availability of food and the fact that you don't have to any longer hunt and kill it, grow it, pick it, steal it. You can go to the store and buy it whenever you want in any quantity that you want, right? A lot of people don't transition well from youth to adulthood to old age in their eating habits because it's available and I don't need to exert energy getting it anymore. And I can get what I want when I want it very easily, very quickly.
So there's a surplus of energy that is not being burnt.
Or a surplus of food that is being consumed without you needing it. Exactly. And I think that kind of filters down to people's ultimate relationship with food. And now we're really talking about time management and people don't think about time management when it comes to diet and health, but it's one of the greatest factors and criteria and variables that's going to define how you are able to spend your time. How productive can you be? If you're obese and it's hard for you to get around, it's going to slow you down.
It's funny.
Right? And by the way, it also, translates to laws of attraction, not just sexual attraction in business, attraction in life in general, friendships. If you're healthier, if you're more fit, if you have more energy, that translates to attraction automatically.
Movement.
It's attraction. People want to be part of that. They want to understand, right? They want to be that. They want to, right? They want the energy that comes along with that diet, with that metabolism, with all that work that you're putting in. They want some of that. Which is why I always get asked the question, because everyone's like, how do you do that? How are you able to maintain that well into your 40s, for example, right? A lot of my friends are not as fit.
Well, there's a strong genetic component to it.
Huge genetic component as well. But I mean, I can get fat. I can gain weight. If I want to, I can I've actually been a little overweight once. Yeah. In my 20s, at one point, I was well over 200 pounds.
Really?
I was like,
how much do you weigh now?
155, 160 on a heavy day.
That was muscle because you were always athletic.
Right. And I mean, I'm 6'2", so 6'2", 155 is pretty slender. 6'2", 220 is also pretty acceptable nowadays. People are like, okay, if they're 220 and they're 6'2". Now, I have a very slender build as well. I don't carry weight well. I have smaller shoulders, smaller bone structure. So even though I'm tall and people think of me as big, I'm actually small. Okay. Whereas some of my friends have bigger bone structure and they will never be 155, even though they're not as tall as me, because they're bigger people, right? They're bigger, they're thicker, their bones are bigger, their shoulders are broader, they're larger human beings than I am. And so I'm not saying that you have to look like me, because we all have a unique look, and I'm not saying that my look is any better than anyone else's. If anything, I think that kind of someone that has a little bit more of that broad shoulder as a man kind of comes along with, more of the masculinity and more of that powerful man.
So I'm sitting here looking at you and I'm thinking what surgery, what drugs can I take to look more like you? Because I want to look like you. The way you look is much better than the way I look. So what should I do with myself?
Don't think that. And you said it out loud. It's even worse. You've manifested it in this world. Stop it. I'm not even, I don't even want to accept what you're saying right now. Obviously you're kidding. But people really do think that.
That's what I'm saying. Absolutely. I think most of society thinks like that. They've completely discarded themselves.
Yes.
And they want to look like something other.
And by the way, they can naturally.
They can.
Everyone can do. No. Unless you have a medical condition, a thyroid condition, where you cannot lose that weight because you're right when your body doesn't process certain things correctly. Aside from the medical conditions, anyone who wants to be fit can do it. It's just being able to live in a calorie deficit.
Get off your couch and take a walk. And then you'll take a run.
Honestly, I used to be a personal trainer. And I found that it's really just food. You can become fit, really fit, just based on your diet without really moving a whole lot. You don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to, right? Now, Going to the gym helps you with your calorie deficit. So if you struggle with food and your relationship with food and you need to eat more calories than what your body would require based on what you're burning in a day, going to the gym, will help you, right? Because you're going to burn those calories and you may be able to actually pull off a calorie deficit after the gym. But the gym's not necessary. You can do it with just discipline. Just don't eat as much. And what you do eat should be healthy. I personally, when I was 31 years old, met a good guy that I used to work with in Florida when I was at Blue Cross Blue Shield that was super fit, looked so good. And we got to talking and he told me about keto and intermittent fasting. And I started going to the gym with him and I started doing the intermittent fasting and I started doing the keto, and the weight I lost 60 pounds in 2 months on my own. Just being disciplined. It was hard.
You obviously cut down on your carbs and your sugars.
No, I'm saying you have to eat right. Like I was eating max 1 meal a day, some protein, some usually, either a salad or a baked potato and some water. I cut out alcohol for a year. I cut out carbs. I cut out sodas. I only drank water. I drank a lot of tea actually to help cleanse my gut at the beginning, especially because I realized that gut health is so important. But more importantly, if you dry fast, no food, no water for 72 hours, it completely resets your entire immune system. You don't get sick. Your body is eating off its own dead matter, dead material, and it slows down aging. It prevents you from getting sick. It prevents you from getting fat. It prevents wrinkles. It prevents so many things. It is the answer to perpetual youth. Literally. On the third day of a dry fast, I will have more energy and mental clarity than on day one. And you're still peeing.
So April 14th, we're running a week fast in Costa Rica. We hope you can join us. We look forward to it. And the breakfast is amazing. Steak, salmon.
No, the breakfast is supposed to actually be the opposite. Yeah, like some water, some fruit. Like keep it light. Right?
Absolutely. I get turned on when I think about fruit. I love
fruit. But you can overdo it. Fruit has a lot of sugar.
Yes.
People think that, I'm eating fruit, I can eat as much as I want. Lie.
Some people claim they've had teeth grow back because they just eat fruit for years.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what the science is behind that, but that's very interesting. Maybe there are some other factors
involved.
involved.
I've come across that in my journey with food.
That's really interesting.
I'll find you the source. But there's people in India or Himalayas that eat air, apparently. Not the Bhagavad Gita, what's it called? It's called the something of a yogi. The yogi. There's a book. I'll remember.
Interesting.
The autobiography of a yogi.
Wow.
Yes. And I don't remember whatever, but that's the title. And it talks about certain groups, and they live on air. They live on air.
Well, we all live on air, but
they live on air.
They live on air. Yeah.
They find air just sweeter than chocolate.
Have they tried your chocolate?
It'll kill them.
I don't know.
They would pass out and not like
that. That's some good chocolate. Yeah.
It's hard to believe that.
It is. But I mean, people can do all sorts of things. Mind over matter. Discipline is discipline. And anyone can really do anything as long as you don't starve yourself to death. Which, by the way...
Which maybe is a conscious thing, right? They would argue it's a consciousness.
Oh my gosh.
Because you believe that it's going to happen. That is what's going to happen. But if you believe that air and sunlight, vitamin D, that it is in the environment, you don't need to consume anything with your mouth.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe they're sticking something... leaves on themselves, right? That they're somehow absorbing the nutrients in other ways other than the mouth.
Interesting.
Right?
I guess. I don't know. I've never tried that before. Honestly. I think the longest I've ever gone no food, no water is 5 days.
Did Moses drink on the mountain? when he disappeared?
I mean, who knows? I mean,
I thought you knew that.
he was up there. I mean, I wasn't there.
What did you learn in Jewish stuff?
What did I learn?
Learned nutrition in Jewish
Right?
days.
I mean, I guess he kind of was like living like an angel up there and kind of didn't need the things of the physical world in order to survive while he was up there for, for a month.
Over a month.
Over a month.
A month and yeah.
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 So he did it.
Listen, I mean, he was a unique, extraordinary individual.
But I you know what? I can identify. If I'm excited that way, day after day, I'm so excited. I'm so happy.
Right.
I'm thrilled.
Yes.
So there's room for that concept, right? If you find something that thrilling, that energizes you, just psychologically, yeah, you don't need food, and maybe that'll last a day or two. And I'm not talking about mania. I'm not talking about having a manic episode.
I mean, listen, you can consume a bunch of psychedelics and probably go a lot longer and not even know that you're hungry.
Well, of course, you're delusional.
I'm saying, like, anything is possible. So, I mean, explaining the stories in the Bible sometimes requires a little bit of an open mind.
100%. In fact, you have not read the Bible until you've read the Bible on a psychedelic. At least think of those concepts.
Yeah.
100%. And because we've somehow been conditioned to think that psychedelics are just so kind of weird and bad and you'll lose your mind. That's just not true.
Not true.
It's not true at all.
No. I think people that abuse can lose their minds.
People can abuse
But you can abuse anything.
Exactly. And they'll die.
Exactly. And I think it's one of the most important things that we can learn in life is to do things in moderation.
I take that back. I came across an Instagram where somebody cured their cancer with bananas. Just banana diet.
I heard that. I've heard that bananas and potassium can be very, very powerful. I mean, my step-brother-in-law cured a herniated disc with copaiba oil.
Copaiba oil.
Copaiba and lavender.
How did he cure that?
He took huge quantities. No, he put them in little gelatin capsules and would take 2 of those like 3 or 4 times a day for a few months. And literally the x-ray had bones that were broken off in the x-ray. And then a few months later, he was going to have to get his back surgery to fix his vertebrae. A few months later of taking copious quantities of copaiba, which is a plant found in nature, which is a natural anti-inflammatory. It's where ibuprofen and all those things ultimately came from. It dissolved. The bone was gone. Like he took an x-ray a few months later and the bone was literally gone. The shards were no longer there. Copaiba and lavender.
That's what he lived on?
No, it was a pill. It was what he was taking while living his regular life. Instead of taking any other drug for pain or whatever, he just took those. Mm-hmm. And it cured him. It didn't just take away a symptom. It cured the problem.
Is it that cured him? Or maybe he changed his diet or something else?
Nope. Didn't change it.
Still eating burgers and fries and milkshake.
Did not lose weight.
Did not lose weight. Okay, so he didn't really change his diet. He was just taking that.
Just took copaiba and lavender.
Okay, we need to trial that. We're holding, in May, a trial for copaiba.
Clinical trial people, clinical trial volunteers, let's go. You will not get paid for this trial, so...
yeah, you don't get paid. You go do it on your own free will.
Yeah. But I mean, all of these things are such major inputs into time management. And like we got a little bit off a tangent because of health, and health got us onto this whole piece of food and diet.
Well, you got to give yourself time to focus on, educate yourself about nutrition.
Well, so using some of your regular time on every single day to focus on your health and your nutrition is a good investment in you.